He does have the Sylvan Library. I like his list a lot. He has everything you want. This looks really good to me.
Eric Gustafson has a somewhat less conventional list. He has the 19 lands, which I like. He has Tega over the fourth copy of either dual land, blue dual land. He has Stifle over Spell Pierce, which I'm not a fan of. He has 3 Force of Wills, which I like.
No, he has Spell Pierce and Stifle.
Oh, he has Spell Pierce. Oh, jeez. Oh, so he cut Spell Snares. That's how he did it. Okay, so he has 3 Spell Pierce, but 4 Stifle. The Stifles are in there. He has room for those because he cut down on the number of Spell Snares and the Thought Scours. So what this is going to do is he's going to be playing an even more reactive game than most other Rug Delver decks because he has more blue instants, but his Nimble Mongooses, or Mongeese, I suppose, won't get Threshold as fast because Thought Scour won't provide the +3 to Threshold. So he'll have to work to get there, and he'll get there around turn 4 or 5 as opposed to being able to get there on turn 3 or 4. That said, he still has options on mana screwing Gerald in a number of ways. He can hit his fetch lands, he can Forked Bolt his mana producers early, he can Spell Pierce Green Sun Zenith. This is really going to be a good match if Eric has a strong understanding of when to tap his lands and when to pass the turn with untapped mana.
And we can be pretty sure that Eric has a pretty good understanding of how to do things technically in a correct manner. He's wearing a solo mid hat, so clearly into competitive gaming.
Yeah.
And I know it's competitive video gaming, but still, people who do one thing competitively usually do all things competitively.
Yeah, it's a lifestyle. So he lost the die roll, which is even more important when you're playing Stifle.
And Savannah for Gerald Orrison. Let's see if he can lead things off with the Mother of Runes. That would really be ideal in a matchup like this.
Yeah, Mother of Runes is not a card that you want to see if you're Delver. The reason why is that it forces you to react to it, or you more or less can't Lightning Bolt a creature again.
Yeah, but Gerald Orrison has a turn 1 Noble Hierarch to start things off that Savannah. And now we're going to see what Eric Gustafson has to respond. Alright, so Eric chooses to go ahead and Wasteland the Savannah and pass the turn back to Gerald. Presumably he kept a hand with a strong amount of disruption, and you know it's always awkward to go Wasteland go when your opponent had a mana guy in turn 1 and you don't.
Yeah. Being behind 2 lands and a creature to nothing at the beginning of your second turn is fairly demoralizing. So if this is a pretty strong tell for Mother of Runes and no other land. Did he attack?
Yeah, attack for 1 and pass.
So yeah, this is a strong tell for no other land.
All right, so Eric Gustafson able to sacrifice the Scalding Tarn. Let's see, is he going to grab a?
I would light this up if I could.
I don't. I think Gerald definitely has another land. I actually think that him grabbing a Plains there, because you don't grab Plains only if you don't have another land as Maverick.
Really?
I don't think so. Like I think him grabbing a basic Plains means he has a basic Forest. Because I think if he had Savannah or Plains in hand, then he would have grabbed like something else.
And he does have a Horizon Canopy, so.
Yeah. So tapping a white, going to cast Swords to Plowshares, starting that Delver of Secrets, and Eric Gustafson going to jump back up to 19 health, but going to have to remove that from the game. Basic Forest comes down for Gerald Orrison. Gerald attacking for 1. And Eric with a Misty Rainforest here. Going to cast a Brainstorm. And he's digging for threat.
Finds lightning bolt, ponder, something.
And, the fact that Gerald was able to grab both of these basics, that, again, makes Eric's Stifle plan significantly worse.
Yeah, with 2 fetches already used, Stifle gets significantly worse against a deck like Maverick. All of the other applications generally trade for somewhat less of a card.
Yeah, he's going to have to use it to, turn Stoneforge Mystic into a Squire or something like that.
I mean, he can still stifle night activations in Wastelands, but it's not really where you want to be.
Stifling Wastelands is fine.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you can do it.
Yeah. Bless you.
Alright, so Eric here. Either going to need a burn spell or, yep, has a burn spell.
Yeah.
And there's no way you can pass the turn there without having either a burn spell or Delver of Secrets. Alright, Gerald here has a number of haymakers that he could play. He could play around Daze and play something like a Stoneforge Mystic. He could play into the Daze and try to land a Knight of the Royal Quarry.
I think he Stoneforge Mystics here, through, beating a Daze and forcing Eric to have another red spell, or, face an incoming Jit.
I would have gone Batterskull.
Does he have Batterskull?
Yep.
Wow.
I cannot believe you don't get Batterskull.
Yeah,
here.
no, that...
Against Rug, like, I played a lot of blue-white Stoneblade, and
a lot of Maverick decks don't play Batterskull, but I think that Batterskull is one of those tactical elements. Maybe he has the Batterskull in his hand.
Maybe.
That's the only way that his play is defensible. In which case, Eric's just not going to see it coming. But yeah, I can't imagine that Gerald has a Batterskull, knows that his opponent's playing Rug Delver, knows that Rug Delver is pretty much ice cold to a Batterskull.
It's a 4 toughness lifelink guy.
That has vigilance.
Yeah.
It's just unbeatable. So he has the other red spell as well.
And Eric going to just pass the turn here.
Holding up Stifle and Spell Pierce.
Alright, Gerald, what is that card you just drew? Is that a Sylvan Library?
I'm not sure. He's going to Stifle this. See, here's the issue that I have with Stifle, is every time that you have Stifle in this spot, you just jump at the ability to use it. You're like, oh, thank God, now I can get this card out of my hand.
Yeah, like he breaks even on cards.
Right, but you don't want to put a card in that, like, you pray after turn 2 that you get to use to break even on cards.
Yeah, I mean, the
like
trade-off
not a
is that
good
in
card
many games, it just, like, especially when you're on the play, it just outright wins you the game. It steals the game entirely.
Right, but you were going to win that game anyway.
Not necessarily.
You were going to have to work a little harder for it, but if your Stifle was like any other card, you're probably just going to win that game.
So it was a Sylvan Library that Gerald drew. And Daze, that's going to be pretty good here.
Yeah, I don't like that sequencing. I think that Gerald... You generally want to cast spells before you activate abilities against a deck with Daze.
Yep. Definitely true.
The only thing I can conclude here is that Gerald wanted to bait the Daze with a Sylvan Library that he does not value. But his hand at the time was Windswept Heath, Umezawa's Jitte. So he fetched what I believe to be the incorrect equipment with his Stoneforge Mystic.
Alright, so another land for Gerald here.
Yeah.
A bit flooded. I think the only card he really has left is Jit. And Eric, looking to begin to take over this game. Yeah, something interesting that happens in this matchup a lot is just that, whoever draws more lands usually loses. Seriously.
Really?
Something I've noticed a great deal.
Someone just floods out.
Yeah. Seems to be the most common route to victory in this matchup. Ooh, and another Reliquary. That's an incredible card against the Rug Delver deck.
With all of those lands already in the graveyard. It's a 7/7. Eric has no pressure to speak of. Draws Tega, plays it. Has Lightning Bolt, Spell Snare. And I think he just loses at this point.
Yeah, I mean, Knight is just too much.
Well, I mean, he could cast Jit, get it Spell Snared, attack for 7. He could use Knight, just tutor up a bunch of wastelands. I wouldn't mind cutting him off. I wouldn't mind using Knight to cut Eric off of green here.
We can't do it entirely all in one turn.
Sure, he can do it over 2 turns, at which point his Knight becomes a 2-turn clock.
It's definitely true.
And Eric can't peel, some sequence of green chump blockers as well as flipping his Delver.
All right, so
Zenith for 3
for Gerald.
resolves.
Yeah, so
that's another
Knight of the Reliquary.
Yeah, that'll just about put Eric away. So where did this game go wrong for Eric?
Knight of the Reliquary hit the battlefield, and Rug Delver cannot beat Knight of the Reliquary pre-board.
I agree. So
that's something that's really important to remember.
Do you like the turn 1 Wasteland? I feel like letting Gerald get away with a Noble Hierarch in the early turns is, a real consequence. And, not leaving yourself with the land in play to start your second turn can be an issue when you want to cast multiple spells in a turn.
Oh, that's definitely true. I mean, it's an odd thing though, because you're playing the Stifle version of the deck. You really have to commit.
I don't even know that I flip my Delver there. I think I just concede with Spell Pierce on top of my library. I mean, you're dead on board. Why would you give your opponent that information? That's definitely a point where Gerald now knows appreciably more about Eric's deck. Eric isn't winning this game. There are no sequence of cards that Eric can draw that will let him achieve victory.
And he's going to ponder and look for them. And just going to pack them in. And yeah, I mean, at that point, your opponent has 2 Knight of the Reliquaries in play.
Why would you show him Spell Pierce?
Yeah, there's not really much of a reason to.
Like, letting him play around that card is a very real consequence of showing him the card on top of your deck when you're dead.
Well, I don't think Spell Pierce is going to stay in his deck after sideboard against Maverick. Maverick's like all dudes.
So, I think if you're on the play, if you're Eric, you obviously want to stifle his opening fetch land. He plays 6, and the issue with Spell Pierce and why I think it's actually fine on the play is that Green Sun Zenith is a very realistic turn 1 play. And
that's true. And
protecting your Delver from Swords to Plowshares while working the mana denial angle is one of the better ways to beat Maverick if you're Rug Delver.
That makes sense.
So keeping them on 1 or 2 mana and spell piercing a Swords to Plowshares can be decisive. What do we have to bring in over on the Maverick side of the board?
Alright, so Maverick has a Sylvan Safekeeper, an Even Mind Sensor, Thrun, which is awesome here.
Yeah, Thrun's a nightmare for Rug.
Yeah, Path Exile, also very good.
Yeah.
Choke, surprisingly okay.
Yeah, I would not board it in. It's not a night. It costs as much.
Yeah, that's the thing. Is so many people board in Choke and against Rug, and I've seen people keep
just
bad
lose to a
hands that
Delver.
have Choke, and they just lose to a Delver. Yeah. Linvala, Keeper of Silence. Most people would not sideboard that in against Rug, but
I'm fine with it.
I do.
It's a 4 toughness flyer.
Yeah, it's a 3/4 flyer, and I don't think. I know it's Legacy, and I know that people are killing you on turn 1 and stuff, but you're playing against Maverick. Maverick's playing fair, and they're beating those decks by interacting with them, and you're playing somewhat fair, and you're interacting with the other people, and a 3/4 flyer is extremely difficult for Maverick to deal with.
You mean Rug Delver?
Or for Rug Delver to deal with.
Yeah. I mean, it just beats the stats of all of Rug Delver's creatures, save Tarmogoyf, and
Tarmogoyf doesn't fly.
Tarmogoyf doesn't fly.
And 4 toughness means it's out of range of all their burn spells.
Correct. So I like bringing in Linvala there. Sort of counterintuitive, but definitely worth considering. Over here, we have a much more pinpoint sideboard that Eric is playing. He has 3 Tormod Script, 3 Chill. So 6 slots dedicated up front to graveyard strategies and red decks. Solely and exclusively. There is no crossover value. It is a haymaker that looks to end the game against those strategies. And that's a lot of sideboard space just to hate out Dredge plus Reanimator and then Mono Red Burn.
Yeah. And I mean, it's not even necessarily going to be effective.
Right. It's not like a guaranteed win. Tormod Script is not, say, Leyline of the Void.
Very true.
So what he can bring in is his 1 Sulfur Elemental and his 4 Submerges and perhaps his 2 Ancient Grudges. He didn't see Batterskull, though. I generally don't bring in both Grudges unless I see Batterskull. I'll bring 1 in for a Jit, 2 in for a Batterskull. Because you really can't beat a Batterskull going long.
Yeah, Rug
doesn't
cannot
happen.
beat the Batterskull. See, that's why I love playing blue-white so much, and I don't understand why people don't play blue-white anymore. Like, I felt like I just didn't have that
Because people spell pierce
match.
your Batterskull, man. It happens. They light up your Stoneforge Mystic. You get to 6 mana. You feel proud of yourself for playing around days. You cast Batterskull and it gets spell pierced and you feel miserable.
No, man. I always know what they have in their hand.
I mean, I did it to Ben Hayes in the Invitational. It was miserable for him. And then he had Academy runs, and I ate it with Scavenging Ooze. Delicious, delicious Batterskull.
Yeah, I mean, things can go wrong.
Yeah.
Rug Delver's the type of deck where, if things go right, you kind of just beat everything. So. Then again, so is
Every deck.
Stoneforge Mystic, yeah.
Yeah. Any deck that casts Brainstorm and then you draw cards in such a way that you could have brainstormed them there in the first place, you're going to win. I think
Brainstorm's
that
just so good.
I think that the problem with Eric's Rug deck, I figured it out. It's really good on the play, and really bad on the draw. And there's no in-between ground. I want everything in his main deck on the play, and I want none of it on the draw. I want to cut Stifle on the draw immediately. I don't really want Spell Piercer Daze, and he only has 2 Spell Snare as a way to catch back up on the draw.
The Spell Snare is just so important when you're on the draw.
Yeah.
Like being able to get their 2-drop for 1 mana and then play your own 2-drop, and then leave yourself with, a 2-drop and then with a 1-drop.
Yep.
After turn 2. Like that's game breaking.
Yeah, it's
that's one of the
a
reasons
huge
why Spell
deal.
Snare is just so absurd.
It's one of
I
the
can't
best
believe Spell
uncommons.
Snare is so expensive now.
Monetarily?
Yeah. It's like $10 or something. Spell Snare.
Jeez.
Yeah. Like, I remember just, them being in piles of random draft stuff
Yeah, man.
on tables at stores all the time.
Maybe they'll reprint that too. In Return to Ravnica.
So, Eric Gustafson, cracking a fetch land, searching his library for this volcanic island, and no turn 1 play. Gerald, with a Windswept Teeth. He'd crack it, and does he have the Stifle?
Nope.
No, he's not.
So when he draws his Stifle in 3 turns, does he want that in his deck?
No.
Just a question for you at home who are thinking about ever putting Stifle in a Star City Games sleeve and taking it to a tournament near you.
All right, so Gerald with the turn 1 Noble Hierarch again. Eric gives it a thumbs up.
Does nothing with his first turn of mana.
Bidding that fetch land, can grab himself a Tropical Island now.
Probably playing a Tarmogoyf.
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure he has to have one threat, right?
Yeah. It could be a Nimble Mongoose and holding up. Yeah. So he's just got to be on like exactly Spell Pierce, or exactly Spell Pierce or Spell Snare. Like that's what he was hoping to get, was a Green Sun Zenith. So he has Scrub Ranger in hand, he has Dryad Arbor in hand. What he actually wants to play is another Noble Hierarch. Why he tapped his Noble Hierarch, I'm less certain. Any insight on why he tapped his Noble Hierarch?
Did he attack?
No. He cast it.
That one was when he cast?
He cast Noble Hierarch off of Noble Hierarch and then tried to plow Nimble Mongoose, only to be informed it has Shroud, and then passed the turn.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know.
Okay, so he has Scrub Ranger, so he clearly, like, has a play here. I'm going to chalk Gerald's decision to fetch Umezawa's Jite over Batterskull in Game 1 up to unfamiliarity with the format, and possibly a dogmatic decision based on friends' advice going before the match, rather than a more calculated decision.
Well, I mean, you never know. Like maybe he's played the match before and he feels that
Jite is better than Batterskull.
Yeah, and I would strongly disagree with him. I've always got Batterskull against the Rug decks, but I mean, different people do play different matchups differently.
Right, but the only way you lose is you get raced, and the only way to Batterskull is the best way to never get raced.
Oh wow, that's a really aggressive Force of Will.
I mean, I think you have to be about that aggressive with your Force of Wills in this matchup.
Huh, interesting.
I think that you just need a Delver of Secrets, and
Thrun.
That's Thrun. Thrun's going to get in for 6 a turn, is the thing.
Yeah. Gerald going down to 16 here.
And
or 17 rather. 17, no big deal.
15, a bigger deal.
Yep, 16, no big deal. 15, bigger deal. Eric's
main
threats all have 3 power.
Yeah.
So, like, as long as your life total is not divisible by 3, you're always fine to spend the life until it is once again divisible by 3. So even if it is divisible by 3, you can spend another 2 points of life and be fine.
Yeah, unless you get Fork Bolted. But your dude's probably got Fork Bolted. Another Swords to Plowshares. This is about as bad for Eric Gustafson as it looks. Being covered 2-1 on permanents and nearly even on cards in hand.
Yeah, Thrun
not an enviable
is
spot.
The biggest disaster ever for the Rug deck.
Yeah. Rug has very close to no outs.
All right, Eric, cracking that Scalding Tarn, bring himself down to 17. Thrun will demand that the game be done.
Yeah, without Gerald's help, Tarmogoyf will never be big enough to block this double exalted Thrun. And eventually it will just abyss Eric down to nothing and then eat him. There was a turn, however, where if Eric had Forked Bolt, he could have taken out 2 Noble Hierarchs.
Definitely, and I mean that would have just been a complete and total blowout.
Yeah. Thrun would still be in Gerald's hand. He'd be a land away from casting it. And he has 5 mana in play. All of Eric's conditional counters are just so bad right now.
Yeah. So that green Cincinnati is going to grab him a Knight of the Heart, Knight of the Reliquary. Pretty bad for Eric. I mean, post board, Eric does have Submerge.
Right, but it doesn't hit Thrun.
Yeah. But I mean, it hits Knight, which is important.
Right. But we were talking about this earlier. When does it hit Knight?
There are different times when it can hit Knight. When somebody activates a Knight, you can submerge it and then get the Knight shuffled back into their deck.
Yeah.
Pretty good way to use Knight.
That looks to be
Sometimes
Sulfur
you just want to
Elemental.
put it on top, though.
He's just main facing Sulfur Elemental?
Doesn't it have split second?
And Flash.
And Flash? Interesting. Swords to Plowshares, the Magic Metal.
Attention Magic players, side events will be closing at the end of this round.
And only 5 cards left in graveyard for Gerald at this point.
Yes.
So he has 2 lands. Knight is a 4/4. Can block the Nimble Mongoose with ease. Eric does have Submerge, but I feel that it's too late.
What's he gonna do, man?
Yeah, he's just getting Thrund.
Wasteland him, make Knight bigger? Yes. Knight is a 5/5. Thank you.
So, he untaps and
Draw a Stoneforge Mystic to go with that Scrib Ranger.
I think you just swing with Thrun.
Yeah.
Okay. Decides to swing with both.
Yeah.
That's fine. Eric deciding on his blockers here. Decides he's going to take it. Going to take 8. No, he goes to 6.
Just passes the turn. Has Scrib Ranger in case he needs to do anything. Eric cheekily attacks with his 1/1. Gerald very graciously declines to eat it with his Thrun, untapped by a theoretical Scrib Ranger.
And Submerge, one of the best cards you can have in your hand in this matchup. But at this point, Thrun is just so resistant to those types of things that it's just running away with this game.
Yeah. I mean, you kind of know that he's dead when he chooses not to eat a Nimble Mongoose with a Thrun.
That's it, Eric. Forced to concede. Gerald Orrison playing Green-White Maverick. He'll take that down somewhat easily. And you see, this is